Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. Let's grab our friends over on Twitch here. They're very excited. Hi everybody, welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. I'm your host, Bill Whittle. It is the 17th of February. And the people on Twitch, which is the version that we record, although YouTube, I haven't, I'm like 6 months behind in posting these things. But we got a new rotation, new bumper rotation for our Monday nights. We'd had a bunch of TV show openings for, gosh, at least a year, I would say. And I'd been constantly saying, I need to update it, I'll get to it. And then I just thought, finally, you know what, I'll just get to it. So I got to it. Lots and lots of stuff from just nighttime TV shows from 70s and 80s. And the only criterion was that I just really, number one, I watched them, and number two, I just thought I tried to pick the best soundtrack. So Hawaii Five-0 and Mission Impossible and Rockford Files and SWAT, Wild Wild West. I'll probably eventually do another one for like Saturday morning cartoons and that kind of thing. But it was fun. I had a couple that I cut. I had Starsky and Hutch, but I cut it because the theme really wasn't very good, actually. I seem to remember it had a better theme than that. But in any event, it was interesting. Just a quick question here from because we ran Cheers next to last. That opening makes me pretty much cry almost. I just have such fond memories of Cheers. I got to know the staff. I'd known one of the executive producers back when we were both just in the University of Florida, and he came out years before I did and was tremendously successful. A guy named Fief Sutton, and he went on to become one of the first. He was a writer, then a staff writer, then a story editor, and then an associate producer, and then became one of the producers. So I did 4 spec scripts for them. None of them ever shot or anything, but it looked like I was going to get a shot. But it was the last season of Cheers, so I'll never get to find out whether or not. But they usually don't ask you to do a second one if they don't like the first one. So I ended up doing 4, if I recall correctly. And so all of that stuff over on Twitch, which is fun because Twitch doesn't ding us for the copyright violations. YouTube would have just shut it down just like that. So it's kind of fun to do it at Twitch if you were doing that. I think it was Lord Bio said in the Twitch comments, had anybody ever been to the real Cheers? It's kind of a trick question. I know the Cheers he's talking about. It's is it in Boston? I think it's in Boston. But I've been on the set, and I've mentioned this several times in the past. I don't know, but some of you got some new people here might be interested to know this. When I went to the set of Cheers for after I submitted my first spec script, they asked me to come on down and watch taping, which was really, really fun. And they told me that the bar on the set, the Cheers bar occupies the exact same physical space as Lucille Ball's living room on I Love Lucy. It's shot on the same soundstage, and I just thought, man, that's just cool. That's just really cool. I had that sense when I learned how to fly in the Mojave. I learned how to fly in gliders out there, south end of the Mojave, just off Pear Blossom Highway in a little town called Llano, Texas, at Crystal Soaring, which was once called Great Western Soaring, I think. And you learn how to fly gliders, and you're out over the Mojave, and you think, well, that's where the SR-71 was, and Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier here, and space shuttles would land there every now and then, and it was great. I loved that show. They had so much discipline, just incredible writing discipline on that show. I was so impressed by I was so impressed by the quality of the stuff they threw away. And yeah, Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, I might put those on. I might do a 60s version too with a, this was more of a 70s kind of thing for whatever reason. I just mostly to pad it out. Those themes were a little bit longer. Yeah, but we saw Beretta and, and all that stuff. So that was fun. Excellence in Animation says he's flying the glider sim and listening right now. Hooray. I've got new prescription lenses, a new prescription rather. I have to take my old glasses in for new prescriptions, so I'm using these, which are a little crooked. Yeah, they're a lot crooked, and but I can see, I can read. I want to say Beretta's cockatoo was named Fred, if I had to guess. Anyway, it was fun, and Bob Newhart show, and so on. Download the new map because I'm trying to lose some weight here. Okay, let's see. I'm going to find that right now. That's strong advice from Ace Affinity says, Bill, advice for your lost mission, download the new map and do it what it tells you. All right. Don't eat for 7 years. It'll probably work. Where's my... there it is. I'd never heard of Noom before, so... If I don't do these things right away, they don't get done. That's one thing I learned, so... Noom, healthy weight loss. Get. Install. Oh, God, I don't remember my Apple sign-in doc. Got it. I'll leave it like this and I'll get to it later. Eat steak and lift weights. Yeah, that'll work too. Risha says, I tried Noom, I couldn't stick with it, and the lessons were super condescending and annoying. I don't know. Anyway, I'll get on that. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, the winning continues out there. The networks of money get more and more unveiled. I did a call in the biz, we call it a hit. I did a 245 hit for Newsmax with Carl Higbee. We were talking about them taking a look at Fort Knox, which apparently has not been audited since the 50s. No one's actually ever gone in there and counted the gold. I said that, well, it's a lot harder to steal gold than it is to divert a string of ones and zeros. But if it turns out that there's gold missing from Fort Knox, I think, Dave Big Booty said they audited in the 70s, but I don't know if it was a partial audit. I don't think it was a full audit. But if it turns out that, I as I said on Higbee, I said I wouldn't believe anything at this point with all the larceny that's going on and so on. But I would be surprised actually if there was gold missing from Fort Knox, a significant amount of gold, because that's the beauty of gold, right? It's not just something you can just divert through 9 different NGOs and into your bank account. You got to either fight your way in or sneak your way in and then put it in a bag and fight your way out or sneak your way out. And that seems a lot tougher to me. So something like, oh my God, Roadrunner says another Delta plane crash in Toronto today. I'll tell you this, if it turns out that there is gold missing, no deaths. Okay. If it turns out that there's gold missing, I think that's going to hit people in a way that this doesn't. If it turns out that people have actually stolen, because the gold at Fort Knox has an emotional kind of a appeal. you know what I mean? It's got a there's like, I mean, yeah, you have to be a certain age because nobody talks about the gold in Fort Knox anymore. But it used to be something that was, mentioned all the time. It's worth all the gold in Fort Knox. But if it turned out that they actually stole gold out of Fort Knox, then that's a pretty big caper tail. And if somebody pulled a heist on Fort Knox and we don't know about it, I'd like to know about it. Somebody said, "What's the point of having gold in Fort Knox when, we're no longer on the gold standard?" It's about $500 billion. It's 480 billion, I think, something like that. And it's the same reason you'd want to have gold in your own portfolio. I don't have a portfolio, but if I did, I'd have some gold. Because if things go really, really south, gold all of a sudden has value, where if the electronic money just vaporizes or the paper money just burns up. So there's that, and gold reserves and so on. The Soviets were paying us in gold for wheat for decades, which is a pretty damn good deal for America. We give you wheat, you give us gold, we can grow some more wheat. I guess the Soviets said, well, we could just imprison more people and mine some more gold. So I guess it's one way to look at it. But I don't know. Everybody's talking about Goldfinger. The genius of Goldfinger was he didn't want to steal the gold. He wanted to make it radioactive, so that the gold in Fort Knox, this huge amount of the world's gold, was no longer tradable. This was before we got off the gold standard. So the genius of a Goldfinger plot, because Ian Fleming was an intelligence guy, and my granddad and Ian Fleming were actually very close friends. My grandfather, Alfred Potts, was kind of a really smart guy and kind of an offbeat inventor. There's some speculation from people that knew them that my grandfather was part of the inspiration for Caractacus Potts, which was the inventor in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So I got some fun family connections. But he wanted to nuke the gold. And I thought that was interesting. But I kept coming back to, I didn't mention it on the Higbee show because it was just a little too arcane. But the one Mission Impossible episode I remember best was a mission where they had to steal a lot of gold out of a bank vault, and they had to make it look like it had just disappeared. They could not just steal it. It's like some foreign government or something like that. And they had to have the gold look like it was just gone. So I just remember this was my favorite Mission Impossible. So what they did was they got underneath the bank, they drilled a hole in the floor, and then they put up this metal rod with like a bunch of heating coils, and they basically melted the gold, and all the gold came down to the floor and went out through this hole in the bottom, and then the heater thing retracted, and then this other thing came up, and it was a spray thing, and it spray painted. I mean, it painted like swirling. It painted the floor of the vault the same color that it was prior. Otherwise there'd be all this molten gold on the floor. So it just, it's Mission Impossible. It's a TV show, but it was that mission. I remember thinking that was just very, very clever, just really, really cool. Anyway, yeah. Evan Jones says in the YouTube chat says that's right. That was the movie in the book. He did want to remove the gold. Yeah, in the book, didn't he use poison gas and kill like the entire garrison, something like that? I want to say something like that. Going to be in Montclair next Tuesday, says James Motel. Through Friday, is it a good place to see the SpaceX launch from Vandenberg that Thursday? Anything else to check out on the trip? You can get about a mile away from the launch pad, mile and a half away from the Vandenberg launch pad. I was out there and saw one of the launches at nighttime, and I was marginally underwhelmed. Maybe because it was night, and it just didn't have the knock you over kind of sense that the Saturn V launches that I saw had. But but we were much closer. And Falcon 9 is actually a fairly small rocket. You know, it's not a gigantic, huge rocket. I think the next Starship flight is early March, first week in March, something like that. How this guy finds time to do what he does is beyond me, but he does. So, you know, it's pretty impressive. And yeah, so anyway, it was fun to have a new walk-in, and we'll have that for a little while. So finally got that done. We got the posters up for Story Mechanics. We got the micro cutout in place. We got the little lights, the spotlights in place. We got the wall super black now. We got all this stuff pretty much set and ready to go. I'm going to be moving the other computer over, and I don't know whether to play with the. I really don't like the Opal camera that I got. I mean, it's very expensive, and it was by all accounts the best of the webcams. I just don't like the image. I like this is a Logitech Brio, which has been really, really good. I've been real happy with this picture. So there you go. So let's see. Systems says, hey Bill, now that it's all said and done, can we talk about the real reason TikTok got banned and how much control they have? Now, did TikTok get banned? I thought it was banned, and then Donald Trump gave it a stay of execution. Has something happened that I was unaware of? And thank you very much for that, Lex. It's very kind. It says, watched my videos for 10 years now and appreciates my viewpoints. It means the world to me. Thank you. I'd like to ban TikTok. Everybody says it's Chinese spyware, and it is, but it's not just Chinese spyware. It's malware. It's an injection of puke. You know, it just is. It's lowest common denominator, and I really hate TikTok. Trying to get these glasses straight. The stocks. Let's see. Is it that? Stocks are a little bit. So, yeah. So Marisha says they got to divest it from ByteDance, which is CCP owned. So I wonder who. But my point is, I don't care who owns it. I just want it gone. I want it gone because most of the people on TikTok the vast majority of people on TikTok are nuts. David Booty's kind enough to point out that the glasses are straight, just my head is crooked, and I actually think there's something to that. I don't know. Probably break them if I'm not careful. Alexa's not sure why people are upset about TikTok. If it goes something else, we'll just replace it. It's probably true, I guess. But I just think it's deadly poison. Yeah, now the Gorn is crooked. The way to look is I look at the door jamb, that line right there, and I shouldn't sweat this too much. Really, it's not like that's close enough. But anyway. So that's that. For Pop Culture Show tonight, we'll go to the forum pretty quick. We did put some work into speeding up the website. It seems to be working faster now, which is good. And I'm going to do a quick check here. Okay, see, that's slow. Now, that still might be my cache. Let me try it in Firefox, because Firefox... Yeah, Firefox just loads. Boom. So, something to think about. I think it might be the Chrome cache. I'll move this over here. Yeah, I put some money into getting this thing sped up, and the score looks better. It was a 40, now it's a 90 on the various metrics that they use. So that's help. Ace of Indy says Buckaroo music stuck in your head. Welcome to the Buckaroo world. Member forum. R. Graw says, anyone hear about Elon auditing Fort Knox? We just talked about that, Mr. Graw. Just spent the last 10 minutes talking about Fort Knox. Okay. You know what? I'm going to just jump into this and see, because there's always stuff to do here. And usually I've got something to lead in about, but tonight I just was busy working on getting that new walk-in done. So there we go. The gold had better be there, Mr. Bond. I'd like to find out if somebody did steal the gold. I mean, real. I did say on the Newsmax show with Higby, I said there was, Elon said it'd be fun to do a live video walkthrough kind of thing. I said, yeah, we should have Geraldo Rivera host it, and he can swing open the door, and it's like, no, empty, nothing. All right, let's see. We got an Ian Nolan. We got a Roadrunner. We got a Jacob Belchek. We got a Jacob Belchek. We got a Road Rider. Marisha Dark. Eric Blake. Capital G Geek. Okay, we can get through that. We may have to skip one or two of the doubles, but we can definitely get through that. So I'm just going to pitch in. Yeah, everybody's just feeling really good about the way this thing is rolling, and so we'll see. Here's happy advice from Ian Nolan. I'm always good for the links. He says, here you go. On the topic of weight loss, plateauing even after cutting out processed foods, etc., I've had the same problem. So I was at, it was probably, just to fill everybody in crazy fast, I was at probably 186, 188, something like that for most of the time. I started drinking these bloody Acai and peanut butter shakes, which I just loved, couldn't put them down. I was doing 2 or 3 a day. Pushed me up to over 200 for the first time in my life ever at age 65. I went over 200 pounds and then got up to like 207 or 208. Just stopped drinking those things. Knocked down about 8 or 10 pounds, so I'm like 198 now, and I cannot get it back down below that. It just won't go below 197. Just stuck there. On the topic of weight loss, one diet I found that can break through is the fast metabolism diet. Link. Lose up to 20 pounds in 28 days. I could do that. It's a book. Okay, I will read it later. Let's see what he has to say. Thank you. The main idea is that your body will adjust to any diet plan you subject it to after a few days. So every few days you switch up the main type of food you're consuming and don't let your body adjust. It's kind of like Doge. Just keep moving. Just keep on moving. Oh, that's fun. Daniel Brown says, I'm your YouTube uncle. Now, Daniel, I've been telling you, I've known your father for a long time, and you've been a good boy, but you need to vary your YouTube diet. So apparently move around quick so your body doesn't have a chance to get used to it. The diet plan works really well. You're even free to eat as much food as you want to get full, but it does have the downside of requiring a fair amount of work to track what type of foods you're allowed to eat day to day. Okay. Ian, and P.S., right after your last trip to Sedona, I pointed out some of the neat things you missed in northern Arizona. We'll be out in northern Arizona from June 7th to July 13th. We'd happily host you two at our architectural award-winning house and show you around to some of the places. If you'd like for a few days, just email me at your email address, which includes. Thank you, Ian. I might take you up on that. I've had to kind of slow down the travel because Bina's been getting old and slowing down. But Bina's had 3 or 4 really, really good days. He's really, really perked up, So that's happy news. Yes, and I need to get more active and all the rest of this stuff. Whoops. Hold on. No, that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was hang on. I want to just brighten it up just a smooch. There we go. And I want to do. There we go. Okay. Well, thank you, Ian. That's very kind, and I'll take a look at that book. And yeah. So Sabina's he's here. I had to deal with this, with my mom and anybody who's had to deal with advancing age and loss of memory, because there are times when Bean just seemed checked out, and he's a lot more present now. So it's like they say, there are good days and bad days, and having some nice good days is having some nice, good days are really nice, but I don't expect that they're going to last. But in any event, I'll take what I can get, and he's doing real well lately, so that's been nice. Hooray for Bean. He's a good dude. He's a good boy, that Bean. So thank you, Ian. Moving on. Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. Hello, Roadrunner. Last year, you stated several times that the impending election was the primary reason that kept you from churning out content. Oh, gosh. The uncertainty of the election outcome meant you didn't know which direction your shows would take. You said that once the election was over, you'd be able to put politics behind you and able to concentrate on your artistic endeavors. How's that working out for you? Not as well as I had hoped. The Trump juggernaut, ably assisted by Elon Musk and Doge, which was originally proposed by President Dog Eater, is unquestionably proving the ancient Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, is not necessarily a bad thing. I wish I had invested heavily in popcorn futures. In the meantime, I and the other Strato studioers and Strato loungers are patiently waiting for the first episode of Story Mechanics and Mason Mattingly, the Colonies, and the rest. Take your time and do things in the right order. We want your best efforts. Thanks again for providing a platform for hope and change of the good kind. Thank you. Well, over there sits the Story Mechanics set. And I am moving the computer over, and once I get the webcam over there in the new computer, the calls go out to Mike Rowe, and if Mike Rowe is booked for any period of time, I'll move to somebody else. But it's getting there. So thank you for keeping me on my toes. I appreciate it. I know it's hard, and it's hard for me too. Speaker Steve says, can I broadcast in 4K for you? I don't, I probably could, but it's only coming through at 720p. It's not exactly a visually demanding show, I would say. When you get to 4K, you can start seeing the inside of my pores and things like that. And I generally like to keep a fair amount of Vaseline on the lens and, and a diffusion filter on all the lights and, all that stuff, because it's fairly terrifying in daylight. So now Bean is not named from Ender's Game, Tom. Bean is he was just kind of he wasn't even really a small cat. The name just stuck. I called him Peanut. I call him Peanut Bean sometimes, and he's just his legal name is Tahoe. But that didn't stick. I had a cat named Reno and one named Pismo, and I thought I was getting a little bit clever. I had one named Texas. Those are my 4 cats. And Clark. And so I thought I'd stay with it, but this just didn't catch. And he's a bean. Yeah, and he is a spiritual brother to Peanut the squirrel, because I call him Peanut all the time. Those miserable bastards. Peanut squirrel is really just nasty. Putting Vaseline on the lens to beautify your face, Bill, says Eric Blake. Put him down under probable queer. Well, that's what queers do. I am on the internet. I am on television. Silk stocking, all of it. You get the idea. Diffuse the image as much as possible, and then I'm going to run it through a Gaussian blur, and that ought to help me. Thank you, Roadrunner, for the heads up and keeping me on that. So we got a Jacob Belchek next. Well, we are flying through these things. We're moving, man. Somebody does need to pay for the loss of Peanut John. He is a theater major. Of course, he is married, no? Which does tend to queer the proposition a little. All right, hail Bill. Second attempt. On the topic of OnlyFans, you've mentioned before that you think the modern havoc between men and women is largely due to the changes in women from feminism. However, I offer the following. OnlyFans preys on 2 chief human weaknesses, easy money and desire for adoration. Yes. OnlyFans... the second is particularly attractive for women. However, the only reason that the money is easy and the adoration is plentiful is because men are willing to provide it. If men weren't buying and complimenting, would women be selling? Well, no, obviously. Well, that remains to be seen. We'll see. Since men are designed to lead and women to follow, I don't make the rules, I just follow trends, okay? It seems to me that the explosion in OnlyFans popularity is women following the sexual ethic that men have established. All arguments about promiscuity aside, at best, is it simply less destructive to men than it is to women, but it's not good for either of the sexes. Is the bottom line of this disaster a man-made problem or a woman-made problem? Well, obviously, OnlyFans is not a thing if you don't have men paying for it. So it's clearly a two-party problem. The issue is, where does the damage occur? And for men, OnlyFans is essentially softcore porn. I mean, OnlyFans is may not be Playboy magazine, but it's Penthouse magazine. So for men, it's actually, OnlyFans is actually, generally speaking, less hardcore than normal X-rated porn is, which is everywhere. So while it's not good for men to obsess about porn, it's very hard not to, and so that's the damage that gets done to men. But the damage that gets done to women is much greater. Okay, Eric Blake wins the chat conversation tonight. Eric Blake wins the internet for the day. He says he only subscribes to OnlyFans just for the articles. So it is detrimental to men, no question. But to women, it's catastrophic. They have been raised to not only without shame or modesty, but they have been raised to believe that this is a virtue. That this women's promiscuity is a goal. It's a goal. It's a something to be admired in post-feminist Western culture. There's talk on the parts of the Democrats and the progressives to make prostitution legal. And there's an expression that's going around that says sex work is real. Sex work is real work. And just to normalize this whole thing. So the bottom line is, take a high-profile example. Britney Spears, who's barking mad, and who I have a great deal of sympathy for. I just liked her during her wholesome phase, when she was wholesome and hot. And she's clearly mentally ill, and that's not like big surprise. But Britney Spears is posting naked pictures of herself, and her two boys are begging her not to. And that's really, really the beginning of the problem. Most of the women who are on OnlyFans don't have kids yet, but the internet is forever. And I mean, it's pretty much standard in the pop culture. I'll switch into my my sort of groovy street slang now, But once you're on OnlyFans, she belongs to the streets, and once she's belongs to the streets, there's no coming back. Once you've done OnlyFans and you've basically exposed yourself to men for money, you don't get to come back from that. You are now a sex worker. You have, you've exchanged some form of sexual access, visual access, if nothing else, in exchange for money. And there's a word for that. And so, as the term prostitute or whore becomes less and less and less powerful, and becomes, for a lot of women, slut culture, right? I'm proud to be a slut. As being a slut becomes an object of desire and pride, and you have these 20, 21-year-old women with body counts of 60, 80, 100 guys. They don't understand the permanent damage that they're doing to themselves. The same way that the men don't understand the permanent damage they're doing themselves by watching all this porn. But for the women, there's no going back. There's what's happening, because I look at a lot of this stuff. Not a lot of the OnlyFans. I've never actually seen any OnlyFans, but I do look at a lot of these videos on women's reactions to where they are in life, and some of these manosphere channels I've looked at, and then Kevin Samuels a fair amount and stuff. But basically, what seems to be happening is that these women in their 20s are partying hard and getting ridden hard and getting run through, is the expression, pretty enthusiastically. And what appears to be the case is that these young women think that this is the phase that they can go through, and that they can do this without any downstream consequences. And as they get older and start looking for serious guys, they're saying they can't find any serious guys, and their problems are multifold as a result of OnlyFans or having a 100-person body count or a 50-person body count or whatever. They can't find guys. Once they start getting into their 30s, 35s, and 40s, they can't find guys. So they're saying men are trash, and there are no good men, and where are all the men, and where are all the good men? And well, it's like the good men. What these women want when they get out of their 20s and into their 30s is they want a provider, and they want a guy who makes a lot of money, and they want chivalry, and they want romance. And guys are basically saying, chivalry is reserved for ladies. We don't get the door for delicate little flowers who have slept with 100 guys, and we're not particularly interested in courting and romancing somebody and taking weeks or months to get to the point where we sleep with them, when we know that you've already slept with 100 guys on the first date. Just not interested. We don't need it, and we don't trust you. This, let's just really get down to brass tacks here, because the biology of this is what drives this whole thing. It's really very simple. Every child that's born in the world, the mother knows who the mother is, right? And the father knows who the mother is. We all know who the mother of the child is, but we don't know who the father of the child is until DNA testing came along, which is just a last flash, a strobe flash in human history. Men didn't know whether or not the children that they were going to invest their lives protecting and raising and nurturing and spending their money on, the men did not know and could not know whether that was their own biological child or not. And that is the biological imperative for men. You want to take care of your own offspring. Now, when you get into certain higher mammals, like lions, for example, lions solve this problem very easily. If a young lion manages to outfight the former alpha lion and beat him and kill him, then the young lion, first thing he'll do is he'll kill all the cubs. The new alpha lion will kill all of the cubs because those cubs are not his. He's not gonna go to the trouble of bringing down prey and feeding animals that don't belong to him, that are not part of his bloodline. And this is fairly common in mammals. So basically what it comes down to is men have to take the woman's word for it. And the only way that works is if the man is convinced that the woman is trustworthy. And trustworthy means virtuous, and trustworthy means modest, and not. You can't trust a slut, right? If this woman's had 100 partners before you, what is she going to do? Is she going to say, where is her morality? Where is her modesty and her desire to pair bond? Now, we have paternity tests now, as Marisha Dark pointed out, but these are new, and a lot of these women don't like paternity tests. But basically, put the paternity test aside, because the paternity test is too new to our species to affect the biology of it, the psychology of it. The psychology of it is that men want to commit to women who they believe they can trust. I trust my wife. I trust her completely. And that's because I know how my wife behaves. I've seen her behave. and and I trust her to go on trips to. She's gone on kind of a women's retreat. I dropped her off with the women and watched them drive off. Now, could they have gone out and had a weekend in Miami? Is that possible? Does that mean, is it possible that I'm like one of the world's greatest cuckolds? I suppose it's possible, but I'm betting my life it's not, because I have seen for 8 years her behavior, and I have not seen anything to arouse my suspicions in the slightest. So this is what happens when you have women you can trust, women who are actual, real feminine women. They are pair bonded to one person. They fall in love with one person, and they're not interested in fooling around. So this is the benefit you get from monogamous relationship with people who have a sense of morality. What the OnlyFans phenomena is doing is it is giving young women a chance to make serious money, real money in some cases. In fact, in most cases, more money than they could make if they were out working a job. And they're taking the short-term gain, but they don't realize the long-term damage they're doing. They will never get an alpha male. There's no alpha male is going to put up with this. There's no guy who now we're starting to get into the kind of thing that Kevin Samuels talks about with women in their late 30s and 40s, and they're looking for high value men who make at least $100,000 a year and are successful men, and they're high value men don't want to take the chance. They've worked. They didn't play in their 20s. They worked during their 20s. They worked during their 30s. The next thing you know, they finally got some money and some success. All the women in the world are after them, and all the women want this guy to come in and rescue their lives, but this guy's got choices, and he doesn't have to take somebody who's been run through by 50 guys, and he's 51. He's number 51, and if he's number 51, then chances are going to be pretty good there's going to be a 52, and as soon as she gets bored, then she's going to move on. This is the other thing that these high body counts do, is the data on this is crystal clear. The more sexual partners you've had prior to marriage, the less likely you are to stay married. In our great-grandparents' time, not just the women, but often the men were virgins on their wedding night. And they had nothing to compare it to. They stayed together because they'd done the entire journey together, and they literally had, how are you going to keep them down on the farm once they've seen gay Paris, right? I mean, it's just when you it really just comes down to the feminine character as the traditional conservative feminine character goes. Women are biologically wired. I'm not saying they're biologically wired to be modest or virgins or anything like that, but they are biologically wired to get and hold on to the highest value man they can, because that's the best chance they have to pass on their genes. Men's best chance to pass on their genes is to mate as frequently as possible. Women's best chance to pass on their genes is to find the highest value man they can, because he can provide, he's a provider, provides food and clothing and shelter and protection and all the rest of it. So they're playing around with one end of the variable, and the men are just saying, no, if you're going to be sluts, see, marriage is marriage benefits women. I mean, really, it is a deal for women, and when women conservative traditional is a better word. Traditional monogamous relationships benefit women. Men are not wired for that. Men are wired for the opposite. And for a man to make a promise to be monogamous to a woman, he's got to feel like there's something that's going to make up for it. And there is there are things that make up for it, but you're still the wolf, you know? You may be a domesticated wolf, but you're still the wolf. And marriages that last are marriages where the man understands that he's got more to lose than to gain by running around cheating. Because if he's caught, he's going to lose all of this investment in emotion and money and time and so on that's put into his family. And it used to be that women would do pretty much anything to keep a family together, but now 70 to 80% of the divorces are caused by women. They're filed by women, and more and more and more, we're seeing. I mean, I think this is fair. More and more, we're seeing men willing to sacrifice their happiness for their family, and women willing to sacrifice their family for their happiness. This and social media has been a huge part of the problem here, because now, if a woman is bored, or if a woman is feeling, well, there's no spark left, or we don't have the communication that I wanted, or this wasn't exactly what I had in mind, well, it's probably not what the guy had in mind either. You know, that's the thing. It's you end up making compromises, and you build something different than what you originally thought you were going to get. And if your marriage is any good, the thing that you ended up with is better. It's different, but it's better on balance than what you originally thought you were going to get. So maybe it's not as exciting as you thought, or as romantic as you thought, but it's more solid, more dependable, and you get more benefits that you had never expected or could have imagined. So what I'm trying to say is, when women go on social media and say, you know, geez, my husband just ignores me, or I feel dead inside, or so on, there's going to be, depending on how many followers you got, you're going to have scores or hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of women saying, leave him. You're a queen, you know, you're gorgeous. Look at you, you're beautiful. You can have any man you want to. Leave, 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 leave. And that's what they kind of want to hear. So they leave, they break up the family, they go out. If they're attractive, they hit the dating market. Some guy comes along and he's a smooth operator and gets her all that excitement back that she hadn't had since the first couple years of her marriage. And he, to use the popular expression, he pumps and dumps her. Next thing you know, she's being ghosted by Chad. And then she goes out and finds another Chad and gets ghosted by him, because they're not interested in this, especially when these women then have, you know, they're in their 30s or 40s, and they've got, in often cases, they've got kids, you know. So they're out there looking for good men to step in and basically save them, help, you know, basically provide for them, raise their children, not the guy's children, the woman's children. And all of this stuff is just anti-biological. So men are just kind of, you know, this is the MGTOW thing. Men go in their own way. This marriage deal, this monogamy deal is not for us. We'll just hit you up on a dating app, and you can come over at 2:00 in the morning, and you can leave at 4. And tomorrow I'm just going to hang out with my bros, and we're going to play Call of Duty. And it's just completely inverted. It completely inverted. And so you know, who do you there's only one person to blame for this, because there's only one party that's changed, and the party that's changed is the females. They're the ones who are acting differently. The men haven't changed. The men haven't. The women are saying, the men don't dare approach us anymore. Men are just too weak and too afraid. It's like, men don't approach you anymore, because if they do approach you and you don't like it, next thing you know, this guy's in jail. All of these fake rape charges, all of these morning after regrets, where women say, well, they were both drunk, let's say in college, and they hook up, and then the next morning the girl wakes up and feels bad about it and accuses the guy of rape, you know, and sexual assault, and you know. The next thing, the guy's fighting for his life, or fighting to stay out of jail. It's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, and they don't know how to deal with it. So what's happening is there are more, what's happening is the average people are no longer willing to settle for. Average women are no longer willing to settle for average men. They consider this to be settling. I mean, I've heard this thousands of times on Kevin Samuel's show and so on. These perfectly ordinary potatoes, who, some of them are the size of planets, and they're like, you mean I have to settle for an average man? It's like, you're a below average woman. You're a 4 on a good day. You're 40 pounds overweight. You have 3 kids by 3 different dads. You should be on the ground kissing the feet of any man who wants to come in and help raise your children and help pay your bills. You should be just, but that's not how they see it. There is an epidemic of belief that women have that this magical man is going to appear because of all of this pop culture stuff, all of this 50 Shades of Grey and all the rest of these things where and all of these movies, like Pretty Woman, for example, or whatever the case may be, they think that this guy with the sixes, right, the guy with the 6 feet, 6-pack, 6 figures is going to come in suddenly and marry them and make everything okay, and they don't know where he is, and then you start getting into this whole other stuff where women have lost religion and picked up kind of pop spirituality, so they're convinced because other women convince them, and some beta males also convince them. They convince themselves that, all I have to do is just think about it, and I'm going to manifest this man. I'm going to make him. The universe will provide. I'm going to just visualize this perfect man of my dreams, and I've got a list that's 4 pages long, and I'm going to tick every single box, and if there's a box he doesn't tick, then he's out, and I'm going to just magically manifest this man who's going to come in and save me and fix everything, and I'm 44 years old, and I've got 3 kids, and it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And this is hitting the wall. And women are beginning to realize that they were told, you can have it all. You can go out and get your career, and you can have a job, and you can have a real nice car and own your own house. And these women are going into the dating market, and they're 42 years old. They have 2 kids, and they're saying, well, I own my own business, and I make $220,000 a year, and I own my own house outright. And men are just going, we don't care. It's not what we're interested in. Well, I'm a boss bitch, I'm a business owner. I'm competitive. I'm tough-minded. I'm a great partner. We're not interested in any of that. We don't want to come home and argue and debate. We would like to come home to some peace, and we would like to raise our kids, not your kids, and we would like a little femininity and a little bit. We don't need to come home to a man who's going to just be doing the things that we're doing. We spend our day out there competing with men. We don't want to come home and have another man bitching at us about all the things we didn't do. We want somebody to treat us like kings, because we are killing ourselves in order to provide for this family. Have you guys seen the guy with the wire? Oh my God. The man with the spool of wire. Some of you may have seen it. You need to go and see it. So there's this man. He's a little overweight. He's probably in his 50s, and he looks like he's a family guy. He looks like he's got 4 or 5 kids, and he's a middle class, hard-working man. And he's got his Jets baseball cap on, and he's sitting out in the garage. This is not a skit. This is not a dramatic scene. This is a piece of real footage. And this wife goes out to the garage, and she's got this camera on this guy, and he's sitting there, and he's looking really, really sad. And she says, "What's the matter?" And he says, "Well, see this?" And he's got a spool of wire, and there's just a little bit of wire on there. And he says, "See this?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, I bought this when I was 18. The guy works with his hands, right? I bought this when I was 18, and the spool was like that, it was just like that. And over the years, I've just used more and more and more of it. Now, this is all I've got left, and and it just makes me wonder, where it all went and what I got, for it, because I'm about out of wire. And the wife says, "Oh, I thought you were just out here because you were wearing your Jets cap and you were just feeling sad about something. Anyway, it's time to get in and just complete." And the second she says, "I thought you were wearing a Jets cap," and the guy says, "I'm out." He's out. He just is trying to open up, and the second he opens his mouth, his wife assumes that he's upset about a football game because she's not listening to him, and he just okay, I'll be in a minute. I'll be in a minute. He's out there by himself, like all of us are, and she doesn't get it. She doesn't. She won't hear it. She doesn't want to hear it, and there's a lot of that out there, There's a lot of that out there. I go through that at times with Natasha myself, where I will say something, and she will respond in a way where it's like, "You're not listening to me, You're not listening to me. You're hearing, and you're responding to something that's not what I said, And no marriage is perfect. I'd love to tell you, that mine was, but those moments when men are basically just, they're not crying, they're not saying, "Oh," they're just saying, there are times when it's really pretty rough, and he could use a little sympathy and a little appreciation. That's what the guy with the wire needed. He needed his wife to say, "Honey, you're never going to be out of wire. You kept this family going, and you've kept us all fed and clothed and housed, and we think you're a hero, and you're my hero, and you're the kids' hero, and no one's done a better job than you." That's what he wanted to hear. It's what he needed to hear, but he doesn't hear it. Just wouldn't hear it. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka said, "Man on the street question, would you rather divulge your feelings to a woman or to a tree? Men overwhelmingly choose the tree. If women hear that, they say, well, that's just ridiculous. I don't understand that at all. I want men to be more open and more emotionally open." It's like, no, you don't. Because number one, if he's emotionally open and weak, you'll lose respect for him. And secondly, if he tells you something really, really core, right? If he really exposes something really dear to him, really vulnerable to him, then she'll use it eventually. She'll use it next time she gets angry. This is one thing that I've noticed about the relationships I've had in my life. Women are more emotional than men, and the problem with this is that when there's an argument, somebody will shoot a BB, the other person will shoot a bazooka. I've thrown a hand grenade and gotten a thermonuclear weapon in reply. My experience has been that that women will go to the atom bomb when they're angry, and men never do. Never. I remember one time in one relationship, in one exchange, where I was so unbelievably angry and hurt that I actually tossed a nuclear bomb back, and they don't like it. They don't like it. In fact, when they get a dose of what they dish out, they simply, well, Clark Unglued said, they come unglued. They come unglued. If you hit back with a emotional, if somebody really uses something that you're very vulnerable about against you, most men will just shake it off. They'll just say, "All right," and they'll walk away. But every now and then, if you come back with a hit like that, they don't like it. So, Jeremy says, we've been screwed up since the 1900s. World War II women had to feel and took dresses off and wore pants. So this basically the problem is that feminism has removed feminism has removed femininity from women, and all of the qualities that women used to aspire to, being mothering, being nurturing, being loyal, being, chaste. These were aspirational virtues for women, and those are gone. And the way that the world should work is women should be the keepers of morality. Women should be keeping men in line morally. Now, I know that the man is supposed to be the head of the household, and I get that. But when it comes to behavior, when it comes to standards of behavior, it used to be that women would hold back the men from fighting. Now, if you look at the dating scene, you look at any of the club scene or the street scene, it's men who are holding back women from fighting. It's the women who are shouting the profanities. It's the women who are starting fights. It's the women who are smacking people in the face. It's the women who are drunk and disorderly. It's the women who are having temper tantrums and fits. And it's the men that are trying to calm the women down. It's not how it should be. So we got some big problems there. Somebody was talking earlier about, we had a show where somebody was talking about, what is the essence of being a man? And it's really just be yourself, dude, and chill, and don't be overeager. Be confident, but this whole Andrew Tate, roided out alpha male. Let me put it this way: no real men call themselves alpha males. I'd much rather be a real man than an alpha male, because being a real man entails that. Being a real man means you have to be strong, you have to lead, you have to be stoic, you have to suck it up, you have to do all these things, and you don't talk about it. You don't. It's not something. It's a label you wear on the inside of your clothes, not on the outside of your clothes. That's the difference to me between like a real man and these so-called alpha males. I think these alpha males are just tremendously insecure, and the problem is that young men who've never had any good positive male role models, not only not in their homes, they're raised by women, and also there's no Gary Coopers anymore. There's no heroes on the in the movies, or they've got no examples. So men are looking for examples of how to be men, and virtually all they can find are guys like Tate and the rest of these douchebags. And yeah, like Dave Big Booty says, we need a James T. Kirk again. See that, and not to put too fine a point on it, but there's a big difference between Kirk and Picard. Kirk, in terms of his confidence and his activity with women, you had to go through, I don't know how many Star Trek Next Generation episodes you would have to go through, but clearly they have to make a couple episodes just to show people that Picard isn't gay, because he's got the British accent and he sits there in his little office and drinks his Earl Grey tea hot. I mean, Kirk is beamed down to some planet with some green skinned chick in a white bear outfit, and there's no question about James T. Kirk being heterosexual. But Kirk isn't. Kirk is not a rapist. Kirk is not. Wouldn't even call him really a womanizer. I mean, a womanizer. If Kirk was a womanizer, he'd be winking and pinching like every single miniskirt on the entire Enterprise. He's just sees something he likes, he goes after it. He's a confident guy. He's a stud. Yeah, David Booty says he's a stud. He's he's a human. Somebody mentioned was making fat jokes earlier about women the size of a planet. I heard two two jokes that I liked a lot. One of them was a fat joke. One of them was one of them is, your mama's so fat she needs a passport just to roll over. And the other joke I heard was a oh, come on. Got his face right in front of me. Oh, for the love of God, come on now. I got a bunch of super chats I have to catch up with. Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris joke. And the joke was, after he was born, Chuck Norris drove his mom home from the hospital. Love it. Dave Big Booty says, your mama's so fat she freebases ham. Let me back up and catch up to my super chats here, because I've got a list of them, and I'll let them slide. And then we'll move on a little bit. But yeah, the feminism has destroyed femininity, and when there are no feminine women out there, the men simply just check out and they say, okay, you want tradition? We'll do the chivalry thing. We'll do the dates. We'll do the take you out to a nice restaurant for dinner and all the rest of that stuff. When we have a feeling that you've slept with fewer than 4 or 5 guys at 22, when you've slept with 60 guys, you're asking me to pay for a fancy date and a nice dinner and all these other things, and I may or may not get some action out of it, but we already know that you've hooked up with any number of guys for free. So why the hell should we do this whole song and dance when we know what your asking price is, which is 0, basically. Labco92 says, states the plain truth, and that is women control access to sex, but men control access to relationships. It's simple as that. It is. And in their 20s, women controlling access to sex makes them think that they're got all the power, which they do. That balance starts to shift in your 30s, and by the time you're in your 40s, it's no longer about access to sex. By the time you're in your 40s, men have enough, successful men have enough resources to be in demand more than the women are in demand. So this basically shifts. And this is why the happy marriages tend to be people who get married young, high school sweetheart kind of thing. People, these women who are expecting these millionaires to ride into their lives and raise their kids and stuff. I've often seen millionaires with these kind of homely looking women. It's like, yeah, but those guys married that woman when they were 18 and he had nothing. She helped build that millions of dollars that he's got. She is as much a part of his success as he is. She's the one who helped put him through medical school or whatever, and she's the one who raised his family while he was out there, building the business and all the rest of it. So those kind of relationships, I think, are the really good ones. So there you go. Sun Wukong, the super chat said, when did Bill go MGTOW? Bill was MGTOW before he got married. Well, I was MGTOW prior to becoming internationally famous pundit king. Basically went my own way for virtually all of my life, and somewhere around 50 or so, 52, somewhere in there, I started to get the picture. Okay, so Sung Wukong again says, women have capitalized on beauty forever, and beauty is an extension of sexuality. It's a problem older than OnlyFans. We need to get honest about life. Yes, we do. Getting honest about life would go a long way. And finally, from Faustonia, we have a super chat. Honest question, can this male-female dynamic be fixed? Yes, I think it can. Or are we destined to watch Rome burn down? No empire lasts forever. Is this gender war beginning of our end? I think the gender war is going to run out because women are realizing that feminism is not working for women. And I think if I was to give advice, even look at it's everywhere in the pop culture, but I know I experienced this. I'm sure most of us watching this experience this. I'd be willing to guarantee you the men experience this. When Grease came out in 77, somewhere around there, when I was a senior in high school, you've got Olivia Newton-John as Sandy, and she's just to die for, right? She's just absolutely to die for. She's the dream girl. This is the kind of girl you meet in high school and you want to spend the rest of your life with. She's adorable, she's feminine, she's sweet, she's very, very chaste and modest and so on. And at the end of the movie, she becomes like this super slut in this black leather outfit, and it causes is it Tony to go, wow. I saw her in that outfit and I just went, well, ruined that, you know. You sure ruined Danny. Thank you. It's Danny. It's not Tony. Danny Zuko. Yeah, it's you see her in this black leather outfit, just slutting along out there, and Danny Zuko's like all of a sudden like whoa, and I and virtually every other man I ever met went, oh, well that's ruined, Now she's just another. She belongs to the streets, This is the Ginger and Marianne kind of thing. Yeah, she's another Rizzo. She's just another high school slut. Rizzo is a loose woman, and Rizzo was not a happy camper in that movie. She ends up with what's his name, but they're not going to last, and everybody knows it. Castleton says, or Bailey and Jennifer, we had WKRP. I got to tell you, Jan Smithers, I think, is the hottest creature that has ever been on network television. I don't think for me personally, nobody comes close to Bailey. She was the hottest creature I have ever seen in my life. I think Bailey blew Marianne out of the water. But geez, Jan Smithers in that was something. And who did she end up with? Didn't she end up with a movie star? Nope. Aaron Gray, not even close. Nope. Not even Phoebe Cates or anybody. Nope. Bailey was it. Josh Brolin, that's who it was. Josh Brolin, it's hard to believe. Godum Coach 23 says, hey, Bill, will you be ready for the Summer Olympics in your backyard in Los Angeles 2028? Well, I guess we got another couple years to see if the rest of the city's going to burn down. James Brolin. It wasn't Josh Brolin. It was James Brolin. And it seems like there was somebody else, too. Boy, she was something. We'll find out what happened. Yeah, James Brolin from Marcus Welby, right? Wasn't that his show? I want to say. She was something. The only person I can think of it was even close to that was, I had a thing for Helen Slater, too. I thought Helen Slater was really something. Helen Slater dated Dave Zucker. I was sitting with Dave Zucker at dinner. We were talking about something. He'd invited me out to talk about something, and Dave Zucker from Airplane, and somehow the subject of Supergirl came up, and I said, oh man, I got to tell you, I thought Helen Slater was just absolutely unbelievable. And Dave Zucker said, yeah, I dated her for a while. I said, you're kidding me. No, I dated her. And I reached over and I touched his arm, I just said, I just want to be able to say I touched somebody who dated Helen Slater, dude. That's pretty freaking amazing. Anyway, Dana Delaney, yeah, she had her moments too, but no, it was Bailey. I thought Bailey was. I'm sure Jan Smithers was not nearly as attractive as Bailey. The thing about Bailey was her personality. Was that kind of shy nerd, kind of tall girl who doesn't realize she's just stunning. Well, that's the thing about Olivia Newton-John, is as Sandy before she becomes the hooker. You know, she doesn't realize how beautiful she is. She doesn't act like a knockout. She acts like a girl next door. It's the magic combination. And if I was advising women, I would say go for that. You know, make yourself look wholesome, happy, modest, and for God's sake, don't act like you're pretty. And guys will beat a path to your door, and they will, yeah. Everybody liked Bailey more than Jennifer. So we'll see. All right, moving on. We got a Jacob Belchik. As a writer myself, on the subject of storytelling, as a writer myself, I enjoy listening to other writers describe the process. Writing is opening a vein and bleeding on a paper for other people to look at, and all writers write because they have a chip on their shoulder about the way the world is are two of my favorite descriptions, largely because they appear to be broadly true. It is true. If this is true, is there a meaningful distinction between writing out of that open vein and chip shoulder and the modern self-insert therapy session childish tantrums that pretend to be entertainment today? The reason that modern movies are so terrible is because modern writers are so terrible, and modern writers are so terrible is because they've never been through any pain. When you have parents that are helicopter parents, and you never lose a baseball game, and everybody gets a participation trophy, and you do nothing but live in safe spaces, and you never have your feelings hurt, and you never hear any ideas that make you feel bad, the more protected you are, like every successive generation in America, you become more and more protected, and you live less and less life. You deal with less and less real pain, and good writing comes from pain. Good writers put their pain out there on the page for people to read, and that's real. And that's what connects to people. When you can show how badly you hurt about something, other people see this and they realize, wow, I've hurt that bad myself, and then that's actual writing. So that's the bleeding out on the paper thing. I think what's a bigger part of it is this business of writers write because they have a chip on their shoulder about the way the world is. I think the absolute master of this was John Hughes. Lapco92 with a super chat says, Barbara Eden, you fool, don't make me come over there. Yeah, she had her moments too. So John Hughes, take a great example. John Hughes was a bright nerd in high school, and John Hughes wanted the popular girl, the hot chick in high school, like every other bright nerd does, right? Creative guys with imaginations, and they're overthinking everything. They're a little bit neurotic, and they always have this unicorn, and there's a unicorn in their high school, and they always wanted the unicorn, and they never get the unicorn because the unicorn always goes with a football player, not with the clever, quirky, bright nerd. So the bright nerd leaves high school and becomes a writer, and when he writes movies about high schools, he writes the ending he wish he got. And I mean, there's a couple of cases where that may not be exactly the case, but basically, this whole kind of, Revenge of the Nerds kind of things where the hot girl ends up with the quirky guy rather than the jock because she sees his personality is compensation for what didn't happen and never will happen. It doesn't happen in the real world. It never happens. All these guys get friend zoned, and the guys in the friend zone, some of the guys in the friend zone go on to become writers, and then they write about the outcome that they wanted, where the guy in the friend zone gets out of the friend zone and ends up making her very, very happy. She falls madly in love with him, and there you go. So it's a lie. It's just not true. It doesn't work that way. There's been countless number of movies. I'm thinking of 80s and 90s movies, but basically, Actually, Coach, we can talk about that on Thursday. That's our kind of a political night. Monday nights are our pop culture nights. So if you want to bring that back on Thursday, be happy to talk about it. Steve Whoop says, I've been in the friend zone. It was lack of testicular fortitude. Amen. 100%. Totally, absolutely correct. Yes. It's just plain chicken shit. But all of these movies where the guys manage to, break out of the friend zone and end up getting the girl in the end are written by guys who didn't get the girl in the end, and they just want to make it right. Problem is, it perpetuates this belief, And so it puts these guys in a situation where they say, "Oh, I saw this movie, and he's going to get." It's the mirror image of the women thinking that some millionaire is going to ride in he's got the six pack, the six figures, and the 6 foot tall. And he's going to ride in and become father to this, 43-year-old woman's 2 teenage children, and provide for her and be her partner and sweep her off her feet and all of the romance. That's the female fantasy. The male fantasy is, no worries, buddy. The male fantasy is that basically the beta guy gets the girl, and doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And you know what? He doesn't deserve it. And I'm speaking as the guy, I mean, I was that guy, obviously, in high school. One of the few people I've ever known in my life who was able to come from being like Lord God, King of the Dweebs, and turn into a real operator, which I actually was before I got married for 5-6 years or something like that. I was knocking them down, man. And what I learned in the interim, mostly because I got a little tiny bit famous, and hung out with people who in the same small pond that I was famous in, and that for shy guys and for socially awkward guys, being a little bit famous is a great introduction, because people come up to you. You don't have to go up to them. You don't have to take that walk. People come walking up to you, and you can just stand there in the spotlight and just be smiling and just be as pleasant as can be, and just say, "Oh, that's really nice. Maybe we'd like to go out and grab a drink and talk about that some more." And every time in the course of my life I've ever said, you either make your move or you don't. I've had times when I made my move. I've had times when I didn't make my move. I've never, ever, ever once, not once, pay attention, young men, never once have I made a move and regretted it. But every time I didn't make a move, I regretted it. I have never, ever had, never made a move and had somebody react like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" Just me, but that's what I learned. It's all about that's all about the confidence. Roadrunner says, "Is being a little famous like being a little pregnant? Is more like being famish?" No, I'm famish. I was famish. I was a little more famish than I am now. But it really is helpful. God and Coach says, "Imagine being in high school today, Bill, with social media platforms and smartphones and GPS and live feed capabilities. Totally different world in high school today in 2025 from my days on the 90s in high school." Yes, and I was in high school in the 70s, and if I was going to give advice to young men, I swear to God, I would tell them, get off of Instagram. Do not have an Instagram footprint. Don't have a Snapchat footprint. Don't have a TikTok footprint. Don't do any of it. Become unique. Become unique by not having those things. That will fascinate people. What's your Snapchat? What's your Snap? Well, I don't have a Snapchat. Well, what's your Instagram? I don't do that either. What's the matter with you? Is there something wrong with you? No. I don't do it because I think it's for losers. That'll get people's attention. Want to refine that a little bit. I don't do it because every guy I've ever met who's on Instagram or Snapchat are just complete losers, and I want nothing to do with them. And just smile and walk away. That'll get somebody's attention. Because the one thing that especially young women can't handle is being looked down upon. Even if you're like Lord God, King of the Nerds, and some beauty queen, some cheerleader or prom queen deigns to ask you, why don't you have a Snapchat? And you say something like, because I think it's for losers. And everybody I know who's on it is a loser. And I don't see any need to hang around with losers. And then just walk away, see what happens. Hey, Jaeger, good to see you. Clark says that's cold-blooded. You need to be a little cold-blooded. Because, see, you're not calling them a loser. You're just saying, no, I don't think so. That fascinates them. It fascinates them. And they'll admit it too. They'll say, you can't count the number of women I've heard say, I get hit on all the time by these guys all the time, and some of them I hook up with, and some of them I don't. But the one guy who rejected me is the guy I cannot get out of my head. These are like pretty women, The one guy who turned me down is the guy I can't get out of my head. So, powerful weapon there, boys. If you know how to wield it, it's a difficult sword to handle. It's very easy to make a mistake and cut off your own arm with one of those. But if you know how to wield it, and you wield it delicately, there's a great deal of power there. Tom Gerlach put it very succinctly: rejection causes a rethink. You can't reject me. I'm beautiful, and you're just a dweeb. And yet here we are. Right? That's what I would say now. You can't reject me. I'm gorgeous, and you're a nothing. You're a nerd. And yet here we are. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow morning, second period. And walk, and don't look back. Because she'll challenge you, and she'll come after you, and she'll start calling you names, and start trying to, get the reaction. But you're just above it, man. I think you must be some kind of faggot. Could be. I guess you're not going to find out, though. Ooh. Oh, dude. See, that's like cold-blooded, man. Yeah, Andrew DeLay has a good point here. Talking to Marusha Dark, rejection is the cost of business for men. Being hit on is the cost of business for women. Exactly right. Yeah. Bill, do I know anybody personally to this day who are high school sweethearts still together today? My best friend has been married to his wife for, pushing 50 years now, and I was there when they met each other, and they were in their early 20s. That's the closest I can think of. Coral Gables is having its the school is having its 75th anniversary. I'm not going to my 75th high school anniversary, but the school is having its 75th anniversary in October. I might go to that and see. In fact, I'm pretty sure I will go to that. It just sounds like fun. So, anyway. So back to the writing, Jacob. Yeah, it's you gotta if you don't have the see, writers have to have a certain kind of courage that actors don't have. An actor can play a reprehensible person. An actor can play a weak person. An actor can play any kind of person, and their defense is, well, I'm not that person. I'm just the role. But the writer, if the writer's going to write an alcoholic, a believable alcoholic, a really believable alcoholic, then everybody knows that the writer either is or was an alcoholic. If a writer's going to write a scene that's believable scene, where a guy breaks down and is seriously considering suicide and lists all the reasons why he wants to off himself, and you buy it, then chances you don't. The writer doesn't get to hide behind the procedure the way an actor can. An actor can play a suicidal character, and no one's going to think he's suicidal. Not necessarily anyway, but if a writer writes a scene like that, you get the idea, right? So I think it requires more courage than being an actor, because you are ultimately more exposed. So there you go. Jacob, I'm going to skip that second one. If you can bring that back next Monday, that'd be great. We got a Road Rider, Marisha Dark, and Eric Blake, Capital G Geek. Okay, let me get through these here. So, here's one from Road Rider. Thank God he's kept it simple. He can go on and on. The question: You're virtually a 9-iron shot away from Hollywood, and you're rather plugged into the business. So how long do you expect before we're seeing lots of movies featuring hot blondes, fast cars, and good guys blasting the bad guys? I think we're starting to see them now. Captain America catastrophically failed because Captain America is about Captain America who is anti-American. Snow White is going to be the biggest disaster of all time. And Hollywood is slowly catching on, and things like Top Gun Maverick and Deadpool and Wolverine. That's Deadpool and Wolverine's a buddy movie. There's no chicks in that. That's a buddy film, and it did bonzo business. Boffo business, I should say. Boffo business in Boston, Batman. Yeah, Dave Big Booty says that they expected me to believe that Gal Gadot would be jealous of that little toad. She is a little toad. She's a horrible, nasty little creature. No, it didn't. The film, Eric tells me that the film outperformed expectations. The idea that Captain America 4 failed comes from a myth that it was reshot over and over. Captain America 4 is not a success. You can talk about the box office, but Captain America 4 is not by any means a culture grabbing success. It's a catastrophe. And it's a catastrophe because he is the antithesis of Captain America. And nobody wants to see it. And no one cares. And I'm over Marvel and everybody's over Marvel. Marvel is, it's time for something new. Time for something new. So we'll see. We'll see what we get. But I have not seen the trailer for Superman, but I have seen the actor playing Superman, and he does not look like Superman to me in the same way that the guy who plays Spock on Strange New Worlds looks like a barista. There's nothing exotic about him at all. He is the most vanilla plank of wood that I've ever seen. The guy playing Spock in Strange New Worlds. He looks like a doofus. He's like a dweeb. He's like, I didn't know Vulcans had dweebs. But he's just a goof. He's a nothing burger. I've seen the new Fantastic Four and it looks terrible too. So I understand they're trying to do retro, but I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. So yes, things are changing. And then he's got a list of things for a new hat called Mace, and it's instead of MAGA, it's Move Away California Expats, Makakami Every Day, Mayhem Always Comes Eventually, Most Americans Crave Excellence, I like that one. More Americans Can Excel, Major American Catastrophe Ended, Make Antifa Consider Euthanasia. Well, it just goes on and on and on. And Melt All Chocolate Evenly. Okay, well, there you go. So Marisha says, have I heard the latest about Jack the Ripper? Supposedly DNA evidence finally confirms his identity. Hey, how are you? We're good, thanks. Have a good night, thanks. It was, yeah. Well, if I have time to look at it, you're going to have a long, long hill to climb to beat Charles Lechmere. Oh, they're... So they're claiming that they've got the Ripper's blood on a shawl, but for Kaminsky. No, I'm not convinced. Some remain skeptical. Critics have questioned the validity of his findings, especially in light of past controversies. In 2022, Edwards faced allegations of faking the discovery of a child's skull. Well, yeah, okay. Nope, I'm not convinced. I'm a Lechmere guy, and we'll get into that in detail again someday, but right now, no. No, I think that guy had been discredited for a number of other reasons. So I just, and the guy's got a history of faking things, so I'm not too convinced. I think the Lechmere case is ironclad. I just think it's absolutely ironclad. On a related note, it was reported last week that the FBI apparently just found a fresh batch of undisclosed documents relating to the JFK assassination after Trump's recent declassification order. Notice that he declassified the files, 2 weeks ago? And the news has not been running 24/7 with the solution to the Kennedy assassination. Because, as I suspected, there's nothing in the file that represents any fundamental difference between the canonical case, which I believe in, based on case closed. So prior estimates suggested around 3,000 remained MIA, so documents missing in action. Okay. Gerald Posner of Case Closed claims they're likely duplicates, but that seems at odds with Trump's statements about holding back some over fears they might be dangerous. Well, he did that the first time. He's just released the files. And no one is shrieking the headlines, "Oh my God, look, it was the CIA. Oh my God, look, it was the mob. Oh my God, look, it was Johnson." No. They're still being released. There's no there there. There's no there there. And if there is a there, I'm not going to apologize because based on the available information, this is without question the best answer. But if it turns out that they reveal, oh my God, there was a second shooter and we know his name and if they can prove it, then I'll say, well, okay, now we have more information, change the answer. But I don't think we're going to see it. I really don't think we're going to see it, and that goes for all of those assassination cases. Representative Anna Luna is leading the declassification progress, and she recently said she believes there were two shooters. Well, I don't know anything about Anna Luna, but I'm not inclined to believe that she's an expert on this. My personal prediction is they implicate somebody very high profile and that it's been known for a while who they were. Any thoughts? My inclination is that the files will reveal that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone, and whatever has been classified has been relatively minor variations on that theme, but I don't think there's anything. No, it just you don't need anything else, And the thing about Case Closed that's so compelling is he actually talks about Lee Harvey Oswald. He doesn't he doesn't just call him a patsy. The book is about Oswald. When you look at Oswald and where he is and what he was doing and the kind of person he was, the more you learn about Oswald, the more obvious it is that it was Oswald. And all of these other conspiracy about Oswald, we don't know to talk about Oswald. That obviously wasn't Oswald. Okay. Yeah, Astronaut says, I've stood in that window. There was only one shooter. I've stood in that window too. Everybody says it's an impossible shot. It doesn't look impossible to me from up there at all. Why keep it classified for so long then? I don't know. But when the files come out, we're going to find out that there's probably some, some administrative, some stuff like this. But in any event, it's it seems to me that he's released the files and we haven't heard anything. So as far as I'm concerned, there you go. Okay, 2 to go. Eric Blake, tonight the case of the Bateman effect. Bill, one of the points I've been reflecting on for many years now involves what I find to be one of the greatest flaws of the right, both politically and culturally. So many of us constantly behave as if by impulse, like we assume the average Joe American, the normies, if you will, must automatically know what we know. They don't. You're right about that. A key cultural example of this, of course, is John Lennon's song Imagine. We know it's Marxist, we know it's atheistic and so on, but whenever we strut around and poo-poo celebrities like Gal Gadot singing it or whatever, we conveniently forget one simple thing. To invoke one Patrick Bateman, it's a song so catchy most people don't pay attention to the lyrics, but they should. Well, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but Imagine is a classic for a reason. The normies who don't live and breathe politics like we do just enjoy the beautiful melody and the general theme of peace on earth, goodwill towards men, and the killjoy haters like us can go pound sand. The devil may be in the details, but that's the point. Average Joe American doesn't give a damn about the details and their effects until our side learns that. We'll continue to struggle in the culture. What say you, Bill? Am I missing something? No, people hear Imagine and they think it's a pretty song and they think, oh, that'd be nice. It's, what a swell idea. I don't think anybody takes it as an instruction manual. And it's got a beautiful melody and it's very passionately sung, and it's aspirational, but and so people take it. It's like a Snickers bar, It's like a Snickers bar. It tastes good, It's sweet, it's crunchy, it's nice. It's a pretty thought. Nobody thinks it through because you don't think through a Snickers bar. It's just something that's on the radio. It's not a credo. It's not. Well, Lennon may have wanted it to be a credo, and the left uses it as a credo, but that's just because the left are idiots. You might as well take the Cheers theme and make a political movement out of that. It's like I'm sure I could construct a case for a political movement based around the theme from Cheers, but I'd be kind of an idiot to expect people to really rally around that. And more to the point, most people would realize, well, I had no idea that the Cheers theme had that much content in it. It's because it doesn't. It's a piece of taffy, If they were trying to make that the anthem of a political movement, then you could sit down and break it down bit by bit and just deconstruct it and show how ridiculous it is. And Elton John famously heard the song and was turned down a party at John Lennon's house or something. He says, very hard for me to take that song seriously from somebody who has an apartment with an entire floor dedicated to shoes or something along those lines. It's a multimillionaire singing about imagine no possessions. Okay. Joseph Belinsky says the AOC's theme song should be Joe Dulce singing "Shut Up in Your Face." So yeah, yes, most people hear it and don't deconstruct it, but it doesn't matter because nobody's going to war over it either. No one's It's not making communists out of people. The people who use it to justify communism are people who are already communists who found the song and then listen to this beautiful song that John Lennon sings. But when I heard it on the radio, I didn't think anything about it. I just thought, oh, okay, imagine. I can't imagine it. It doesn't mean it's real. A lot of things I can imagine that aren't real. And yeah, Donna Greenhouse says, what about We Are the World? It's a nice concept, but yeah, we are the world, we are the children, but none of you are letting them live in your mansion, are you? Michael Jackson's probably a poor choice to lead off the list. But Bono and, and all the rest of these, and what's her name who had that meltdown just recently? It's, not Selena Gomez, was it? Who was ever crying about the deportations and it's like, how many people are you putting up at your house? None. Yeah, I thought so. It wasn't Ariana Grande. It was anyway. Yeah, I need a meltdown. I need to be more. Yeah, it was Selena Gomez. Yeah, all right, I got it right by accident. I just wish I could do something. Yeah, you could put up 20 of them in your house. That would be doing something. God and Coach says, what's going on with Tom Hanks on SNL? Yeah, that sketch is Tom Hanks is on the Epstein list. Tom Hanks, I used to love the guy. I mean, everybody loved Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks was America's actor, right? He was Saving Private Ryan, Forrest Gump. He was just, everybody loved Tom Hanks. Sleepless in Seattle. Everybody loved him, and now his true colors are coming out, and it turns out he was allegedly on Epstein Island, and his day is coming. Yeah, Apollo 13, exactly. Eric says we haven't seen the list. No, but he was rumored to be on it, and we'll see. But yeah, okay, Tom, you want to piss off more than half the country? That's fine. That's fine. Now you've done it, and that's somebody else's movies I can't watch anymore. Because it's not that I can't watch them. I can watch Apollo 13 and not be hating on Tom Hanks, but it's disappointing. Disappointing. And because he feels the need to do this, because he feels the need to alienate half of the people that have made him rich and famous, I hope he was on that island, and I hope he does get burned, not just culturally burned. Now, because of this, I wouldn't mind seeing Tom Hanks go to jail if it turns out he committed anything did anything illegal on the island or around the island. To be fair, Eric Weinstein admitted he went to Epstein Island and found it disgusting, and now he tells people what he saw there. We're going to see names released. We're going to get to the bottom of all of this stuff. This is the age of transparency. This is what's happening. And William Mills says Tom was on the island. He did horrible things. I wouldn't doubt it. And if it turns out that he did, I'd like it known. I'd like the same thing. If it turns out it's true, then I would find it a form of cosmic justice if Tom Hanks were to go the way of Bill Cosby. Oh my God, Andrew DeLay, I just looked up and he wrote the exact same thing. The full Cosby thing, yes. Go the same way as Bill Cosby. Go from being one of the most beloved people in the culture to being a joke, a joke, an old old bald man in prison. Everybody wants that Epstein list released. And apparently Hanks has been there at some of Diddy's parties as well. Chris Elisar says, is it possible that celebrities who want to leave the country have something to hide? That's what I would do. So we'll see. And it's like I'm not trying to cut him any slack because he doesn't deserve any, but it's almost impossible to have that level of fame and fortune and not become dehumanized by it. If you're adored by that many people, or you have that kind of power, it just spoils you. We're not built for that. And the only people who are built for that are the psychopaths who become dictators and Bill Gateses and all the rest of it. So, Gotham Coach says, everybody is compromised, Bill, even President Trump, people, politicians, actors, athletes, businessmen. Yes, the success will ruin you. Everybody, and not just success, everybody's compromised. Everybody has skeletons in the closet. Everybody has things that would ruin them if it were known. If not ruin them, then certainly lower people's estimation of you. It's just, thank you, the Scorch, it's good to see it. It's just human nature. So, there you go. Okay, so we're going to, last one. From Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Have you heard about the reproducibility crisis in science? Basically, any scientific study or paper is very unlikely to be true and accurate. This is not just in the soft sciences like psychology and medicine, but affects the hard sciences like chemistry and physics. I did not know that. This is very important since most new cancer treatments, or really any new medication, is likely to suffer from this. Any suggestions on how we may be able to combat it? For background, most published research is wrong. Good Lord. Response to a paper pointing out the trust issue with science. Spoiler, they want to keep their jobs even if they publish known lies. It's day 28 and still not tired of winning. Right after he was sworn in, RFK Jr. said something. I just caught a fragment of it. But RFK Jr. said, we're going to return to a gold standard of science. He didn't say a gold standard of medicine or a gold standard of nutrition. He said a gold standard of science, where the journals that used to be the bar you had to clear in order to present something as truth are owned outright. The medical journals are owned outright by the pharmaceutical companies and all the rest of it. Andrew DeLay says, I published 12 scientific papers, and I'm pretty sure at least one was wrong and wouldn't be surprised if more were. Now, this is the nature of science. The nature of science is for a scientist to have something that interests him, and then he sets up an experiment. He has a hypothesis. So he has an hypothesis. He sets up experiments to test the hypothesis. If the experiments validate the hypothesis, then he publishes the hypothesis and the experiments. The experiments should be reproducible, which is the problem you're talking about. That means that just about anybody in any lab anywhere should be able to say, okay, the guy took a beaker, he poured in, potassium sulfate, and then he did this, and he did that, and this, and this, and this, and he heated it to this temperature for this long, and then he got this, and that was what, and if I do that, it should work for me too. That's repeatability. And then you put it out there, you publish it, and you publish it in order for it to be shot down. You don't publish it as truth, you publish it as a target. As I understand science, that's how the procedure works. I'm publishing a paper, this is what I believe I found. I believe I found this, here's the evidence to indicate that what I found is what I think I found. This is my hypothesis, here's the experimental evidence that backs up my hypothesis. This is what I think. Prove me wrong. And then other scientists take a look at it and go about proving you wrong. And if they cannot prove you wrong, That doesn't mean they've proved you right, but it does mean that you've cleared another bar. If they can't prove you wrong, then you have a theory that should be able to be of some use. Clearly, I think the most example of one theory kind of eating another without invalidating another is the way relativity, and Einstein and relativity encompasses Newton's theory of gravity. It doesn't invalidate Newton. Everything that Newton found is still true. Relativity simply says that this is only true within a very small set of conditions, which are the conditions we experience in our day-to-day lives. In human scale or planetary scales, over reasonably periods of time, we expect to see things behave this way, and Newtonian gravitation is very, very effective within the limited confines of a 1G gravity field and all the rest of this stuff. But the further you get away from common sense reality, real world reality, the less effective Newtonian physics becomes, and gets to a point when you start getting to very high speeds, very great masses, it doesn't work anymore. It starts to divert from experimental evidence, from reality. And that's where Einstein takes over, and you have to make relativistic corrections to the Newtonian solutions, and the relativistic corrections take out the errors. And so it envelops Newton, but it doesn't invalidate Newton. If you can clear the experimental bar and no one can shoot down your hypothesis, then you are at least Newton, right? You're saying, at least within this limited set of circumstances, this is how nature behaves. And if they can't prove you wrong, then you've added something to human knowledge. It may not be complete. It's certainly not complete. But you have added to human knowledge, and that's something to be profoundly proud of. So if it turns out you'd published 12 papers and you think one of them may have been wrong, then you are practically Superman. If you had published 12 papers and it turned out that only one of them was right, you would have contributed to the advancement of human knowledge and should be proud of yourself. If you got one of them right, 1 out of 12 right, that's a life well lived, and a worthy capstone to a career in science. Andrew says, by wrong, I mean I didn't get the math right. Okay, for whatever reason. We put these theories out there in order to prove them wrong. And there's no shame in that. The shame is when people start getting and this is why science is structured the way it is, because scientists are humans, and scientists often, one of the human qualities of scientists is that they believe they're not human, that they're better than human. And so time and time again, you see this with climate change and all the rest of it, people will become so attached to a theory because they've spent their entire life on the theory. They become so attached to the theory that when there's contradictory evidence that is repeatable, they will not change the theory. They won't change their minds. They say the evidence has to be wrong. They start attacking the evidence. They start making special pleading cases, or they start questioning the credibility of the people who are providing evidence that their theory isn't correct. And so this is what science is designed to do. Science is designed to take those human qualities out of the equation. Marusha Dark says most scientists aren't doing actual science. Well, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for science. I have a lot of respect for scientists. I do find that as a group, they are astonishingly I got to find the right word here. Resistant to common sense, which again makes sense when you've got a large intellect to begin with, and you focus it as a laser beam onto the specialized area of study. You are boring down very, very, very deep, but not very wide. And the deeper you go, the less wide you become, which is why when you hear, which is why a guy like Richard Dawkins, for example, has a very narrow view of humanity. He may be one of the most brilliant scientists in the world, but he has a very narrow view of humanity. And Einstein is the classical example of this. Einstein went for a walk, knocked on his own door, asked if the professor was in, and when they said no, he walked away. So this idea that the depth of knowledge in a specific area means that you've got that same. This is the danger of scientists. Scientists who may be an expert in the world on some particular issue may think that they're an expert in the world on other things as well, and it doesn't work that way. Yeah, me too, brother. P7 2017 says, I lost a lot of respect for science when I found it was personified in a bespectacled lawn gnome with an enormous ego. Yeah, Fauci has a painting in his living room of Fauci on his wall. It's enormous. It's the size of the entire wall. You go into, I've seen a picture of Fauci in Fauci's living room, and on his wall is an enormous abstract portrait of himself. I got lots and lots of pictures up here. I got 3 or 4 of Captain James C. Kirk, the Starship Enterprise. But I don't have any pictures of me up here. Not that self-centered, you know. And I am conservatism. I am. People have become conservative because of me. I am the conservatism. The nerve to say, I am science. I represent science. It's ridiculous. That's a great example of how childish they are. Fauci is the science, and I am the conservatism. Who the hell do I think I am? If I were to say that seriously, you would be more than justified in saying, who do you think you are, man? Who do you think you are? It's a good point, too. I am Whittle the Great and Powerful. P7 says, 1100 scientists wrote a letter to Einstein saying relativity must be wrong. Einstein replied, why did it take 1100? All you needed was one man with the proof. Yep. I do need to talk to Brett Weinstein, but it's hard. I don't know how to reach these people, so. I am Scienticus. Okay. Well, we got through them all. And 2.5 hours almost, not too bad. 2:02 recorded, so 2 hours. That's your minimum viable product. And that's my motto here at BillWhittle.com. We are committed to delivering the minimal viable product. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I think that'll wrap it up for tonight. Thanks for sticking around and being part of the fun, and the great questions, great conversation, great feedback as always. Thank you for the super chats. The show itself is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com who keep the doors open here and keep the lights on and all the rest of it. Keep the haircuts coming, and we're very grateful to them for all of that. So we will see you here on Thursday night. It's fun to do the new walk-in for those of you watching on Twitch. If you come back next week, come back to Twitch on Monday, and you can see some old memories of, if you're an old bogey, it'll take you back to your youth. One of the best things I ever heard in my life was I much preferred being 20 in the 70s than being 70 in the 20s. I thought that was spot on. Anyway, thank you for all the kind words as well, on top of everything else. So we will see you on Thursday for the Stratosphere Lounge. All right, YouTube, take it easy. We'll see you guys in a few days.